we need to do it, and we need to do it right. And it does mean that the budget needs to change. It does mean that some areas of the budget are readjusted. As a Fairfax County public school teacher, I had special needs students in my classroom. I had English as a second language learners, and I can tell you that the modifications that I made to my classroom, the differentiations that I made to my instruction, actually benefited all of the students in my classroom. In my professional life today, I'm a usability expert. I help make websites easier for everyone to use, no matter what if they have a disability, what their background, and the changes that I make to websites do the same thing, because your disability isn't something that you carry with you all the time necessarily. If the batteries in your mouse die, congratulations, you now have a disability. And all of those differentiations, all of those tools that I added to the website to make it easier for someone to use that as a permanent disability are going to benefit you. And it's the same way in our classrooms. The modifications that we make that benefit our English as a second language learners, that benefit our special ed kids, they really do benefit all of our students.
Before I answer that question, I really need to respond to Mr. Grisafi. I understand that this is the era of fake news, but please don't answer for me. With respect to the minority achievement gap, I really have a number of ideas. I think that we need to take several steps to address that. I'm sorry. Can you not hear me? Oh, okay. All right. With respect to the minority achievement gap, I think some of the steps that we need to address are early childhood education. We also need to work with, we need to look at the GMU study with respect to how our teachers, our minority teachers are being able to be hired by Fairfax County. I think we all benefit by a diverse working staff. I think that we also need to look at Title I schools, and we need to see some of their successes, and we need to make sure that everybody knows about those best practices. So I happen to believe that every child can achieve, and every child has something positive to contribute to our society, and I'm willing to work with our teachers and staff to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
One of the beautiful things about Fairfax County is, in fact, our diversity. And I think Michael put it well. It's not just a legal obligation for us, but a moral obligation. It's important for us to provide every student a quality education, regardless. And I think the way to really get at the student achievement gap is a combination. Fundamentally, we need to be able to connect with students where they are. And teachers need to be able to have the flexibility to provide the curriculum and approach that is most meaningful to them to help them raise the bar. I think that among the impacts to student achievement are attendance. And we could go a long way with figuring out strategies to make sure that students are actually getting to class, because those who actually get to class do have better probability of succeeding. And I would just add that, you could go and look at any public statements I've made, and you will see I am consistent throughout. And you can take a look at other people's public statements, and you will see a different picture. And so I will just leave it at that.
I'm a teacher at Herndon Middle. What will you do specifically about increases in class sizes throughout the county and on every level?
Remember I said 90% of our budget goes to paying salaries, right? Because teaching is a human-intensive effort, labor-intensive effort. And that's why, again, it's so important for us to be wise about where our resources are going so that we can make informed decisions about prioritizing those resources. Zero-based budgeting, independent program evaluations, management audit are a piece of that. So I think it really comes down to us being informed about how we're using our resources. And we can start with enforcing the existing regulation that says, hey, look, for K through 6, you can't have more than 29 students. I think it also, there's an opportunity for us to take a look at putting caps for middle and high school as another approach. I will add to that though, it's important for administrators to have flexibility, right? So I think we need to be smart about how we approach any of these decisions and take a holistic approach and an informed one that's data-driven.
I just have to respond to some of the comments that seem to be directed at me. I don't have any public statements regarding Bromley Lee, and I'm not exactly sure where Mr. Grisafi is coming from, but if we want to have a discussion afterwards, I'm sure that we can do that. I have run a very clean campaign, and I would suggest that we all do the same. With respect to class sizes, this is very concerning because I've talked to a number of teachers that are concerned about the burden that this places on them. So it does mean that we need to make smart decisions with respect to how we use our resources so that we can have the funds that we need to reduce class sizes. It does not mean that we need zero-based funding because of the cost that that program alone would produce. That is unsustainable, and the bureaucracy that it would produce. I also would like to work with our staff members as well as the unions in terms of information from teachers and other members of the community to try to figure out how best we can make sure that we have support within the classroom. One of the things that I'd like to work on as well is involving parents more. Because I know that in some schools you have significant involvement where you have PTAs that can pay for things, but that's not always the case. And so I'd like to make sure that we're reaching out to parents to encourage them to participate and support their children in their educational endeavors. Thank you.
So I'm the PTA president this year because no one else would do it. And we need parents to step up. One of the biggest things that I'm trying to do as PTA president is increase parent engagement. I think it's really important. In regard to class sizes, I've been a classroom teacher. There were too many kids in my class. I would love to see class sizes go down. I think that needs to be one of our priorities. I think it's really important. And I think that we need to investigate some creative ways to make that happen. We need to look at some innovative solutions. One of the things that's come up again and again is the class sizes in high school science classes. They're so big, they're not safe. We need to make it happen. And if we, let's try a seminar and section type setup. Let's try, different programs. Let's try having, small groups to have labs and have a lecture style class with the instructor. Let's take advantage of our instructional assistants because they are awesome. There are ways we can make this happen, and we just need to do it. And we need to do it as parents and as teachers in our community.
This is a follow-up question from a teacher in the audience. Is it possible to change class sizes, optimize class sizes according to other factors such as subject matter, student ability, student age, etc., so as to get better education without quite so many teachers?
No.
We know that was a trick question. You're not going to catch us. Yeah. Education doesn't happen without teachers. We know we need teachers. As a SCPS teacher, I know that we have some of the best teachers in the world here in Fairfax County. And because they are some of the best teachers in the world, they have opportunities, and they are taking those opportunities. We are losing fantastic teachers every year because we're not paying them enough. It's the bottom line. They deserve more than we're giving them.
I didn't grow up with, my dad was working, right, in a job, and I didn't grow up with the question of, hey, son, did you do your homework? You know, that was something that I just didn't have. But I'll tell you what, it was teachers who recognized something in me because they cared. They invested. They opened my eyes to new horizons beyond what I could see. And that, I would say, is large part of what brought me here tonight. And so, you know, teachers are a fundamental, vital part of our community. Our public schools are a vital part of our community. It brings us together in ways that nothing else does. And so I think absolutely we need to be positioned to attract and retain the best teachers. Part of that is addressing the pay inequities, but part of that is also addressing the working conditions as well, and ensuring that there's great leadership at each of the schools, because principals matter in this equation too.
Do you think vouchers should be used or could be used in Fairfax County Public Schools?
That's a really controversial question. You know, at the end of the day, I think we should be able to consider any ideas and see whether or not it makes sense for our community. Fairfax County is not, that's not how we operate. I want us to be focused on ensuring each and every student gets a quality education at each and every one of our schools. And I think that's what our focus should be. But certainly, I think we should always be able to consider and be open to ideas and then make a data-based decision as to whether or not it makes sense for our community.
We've had a lot of discussion today about the budget and shortfalls, et cetera, and it is very important that we make smart decisions regarding our budget and where we spend our money. But I am very concerned about sending money outside of our school system when we are already facing shortfalls. So I do not support that. I am willing to engage with the community and listen to what they have to say. I think the collaboration and communication is extremely important, but I am also very concerned about draining our budget through initiatives that will cost us money and take money away from providing quality education for every child.
No, I absolutely do not support vouchers. The education that we have here in Fairfax County benefits all of us. We see it in our property values. We see it in the workforce that's available to employers in the area that they come here for. We see it in the civility and the politeness that we encounter every day as we're shopping in the grocery store, standing in line at Starbucks. Education benefits the community. And you can absolutely choose to send your child to a private school, but you cannot choose to take money away from the community for something that benefits all of us. And you know, if you don't have kids in school, you know, it's been a long time, you just, you know, you get your property tax bill at the end of the year and you look at it and you're like, what am I getting for this money? Take a look around you. Your neighbors are what you're getting. We have a quality of life here in Fairfax County because of the excellence in education that Fairfax County Public Schools provide.
PPAs, or power purchasing agreements, allow school systems to have clean energy purchased at a price similar to the current contract price. Purchasing solar energy through a PPA locks in the price, which is ever escalating. Solar energy shows taxpayers and students that Fairfax County Public Schools cares about their future, just as the energy efficiency work the county has already done shows that. If elected, will you support purchasing solar energy?
Honestly, I need more information. I am all about being smart about where we put our money and whether it's a cost-saving measure, because I love our environment. Yosemite is my favorite place. My husband and I love, we want to protect the environment. However, we also have to be really, really smart about where we put our money. I would certainly support it if we can figure out a way to make sure that it is cost saving in terms of implementing it. Because sometimes it may give us long-term savings, which we have to calculate against how much it's going to cost in the beginning. And I really don't want to sacrifice that with respect to, I don't want to sacrifice things like raising teacher salaries or reducing class sizes. So I would truly have to balance that out and have more information in order to be able to make that kind of a decision.
I'm in the same boat. I don't know the numbers, and I think that that really matters. I do support solar energy and alternative energy, but not if it's going to be a huge hole in our budget. I would love to see solar energy integrated into the curriculum. Let's get some of those high schoolers out there, building solar panels and installing them. Let's do some science projects. Let's integrate it into the curriculum in a way that maybe saves the county money or doesn't cost the county money and gives the children an opportunity to see alternative energy up close and personal.
So I actually drive a Chevy Bolt, which I get asked sometimes, what kind of Republican drives a Chevy Bolt? But, I'm actually excited about the prospects of solar power. I think there is going to be, and we are coming up to where there's a business case for doing that. So, whether it's a couple of years from now or many, I think certainly we should be looking toward that direction. And there's a lot of really interesting opportunities that I think will help us drive down costs, actually.
Thank you. If the PTA is supposed to subsidize the budget shortfall, then how do we support wealth inequality among neighborhoods and the PTAs which support the schools in those neighborhoods?
So I think this goes back to the demographics. I think this goes back to some communities having more resources and other communities having fewer resources. And this is actually, falls back to the school board to be able to pick up the slack in that area. The PTA is made up of the parents in the community. So if you're in a community that has fewer resources, yes, you're definitely going to need more help from the school board. And there are programs that do that. We have our Title I schools from the state level. We have, programs from the county level. This is not something that the PTA can do on its own, obviously. But for some of those things like the field trips, making sure that there are scholarships available so that, all the kids have access to field trips, making sure that, the $50 activity fee, there's a scholarship available for students in need. I think those are the things that the PTA can help with. But that does not supplant the Fairfax County Public School budget.
Can you repeat the question, just so I understand it? I just wasn't sure.
If the PTA is supposed to subsidize the budget shortfall, I believe that was referring to some answers earlier, then how do you address the inequality in the neighborhoods in which those schools are located, the demographic and wealth inequality?
This kind of goes back to my earlier point. The neighborhood around each school is vital. And I think if the point there is that they're saying, hey, there's some neighborhoods that can't afford, I'm not sure, but, essentially, if there are material inequities that impact the quality of education a student is getting, then certainly we need to be able to prioritize our resources to address that. But I think that, each member of that neighborhood around each school should feel to be invested in that. And they really, as Michael was saying earlier, we all benefit from the public schools around us. If they're a high-quality school, it impacts your property values. If it's a low-quality school, it impacts your property values. And so we need to encourage people to be engaged and invested, and I think that will help us get there.
I actually am not not sure that I agree with the premise of the question. It says, if the PTA is supposed to subsidize the budget shortfall, I really see the PTA as enhancing the programs in the schools. I don't think the PTA is in a position in many places to step into that role. We do have to work with our community, but I think we had a question earlier about our legislative initiatives, and this is one of the areas where I think we can work on trying to improve that. We have pockets of poverty, and these are the areas where you don't have the PTAs and where you don't have that type of supplementation, because you have some amazing things happening in some schools. You got PTAs adding rock climbing walls and all sorts of wonderful things, but you're not going to find that in certain areas. And so I think that we have to start looking at how we get our funds, particularly from the state, and them taking into account that not all areas in Fairfax County are created equal. So we really do have to advocate for that, because the taxpayers simply cannot, in the long run, it's very difficult to carry the discrepancies, and it really is, depending, we vary going from different places within the county. So thank you.
What is your view on budgeting for the World Language Program in Fairfax County Public Schools?
You know, I wish for every student to be able to leave and graduate as a senior having spoken another language. You know, I'm Italian, right? And I wish my grandma would have taught my dad Italian. That's not what happened. And so I think as a country, all of us across the country would do well to make an effort to learn. And I think this program in particular is a good one and superior to PLUS, as I understand it. So I think it's good for us to try to diversify our understanding of other cultures and really position us to participate in this global economy.
Our children really benefit when they're exposed to different cultures and learning different languages and things of that nature. And so I would, as looking at the budget, I would take that very much into account. I would hate to lose our program with respect to languages, because I think that we would really be doing a disservice to our community and to our students. And so I would consider that one of my priorities, is to make sure that our Fairfax students are the most equipped to go out into the world and do the things that they want to do. We are becoming a global economy. We need to be able to be prepared with respect to speaking languages. I know that we recently started a program, I believe just a few years ago, in the Mason district, where they are actually teaching Vietnamese. That's the first program of that sort in Virginia, I believe. And that is just absolutely amazing, because it enriches the school to such a degree, not just for the students that are Vietnamese, but for everyone else involved.
I don't believe in today's world, in today's economy, that you can have an excellent education without language skills. I think that this is a crucial skill that everyone needs to take into the workforce as a graduate. I think the earlier language skills are taught in schools, the better. And we have some great language programs in the county. My daughter goes to Arabic at Peachtree Elementary School. It's a wonderful program. You know, I think that yes, this absolutely needs to be a priority, and it keeps us competitive. It helps us to generate a competitive workforce that, you know, is a resource to the community. With regard to the budget question, to clarify, the PTA is not going to help the shortfall in the FCPS budget to fund a teaching position. Yeah, the PTA budget is in the thousands, not the hundreds of thousands. The things that they help are the things that enhance education. The problems that the FCPS budget has on a grander scale, when it comes to, you know, the HR level personnel, being able to pay for teachers, that is not something that the PTA can address.
At the beginning, we promised that you would have time at the end to speak one-on-one with the candidates, perhaps to follow up on a question, perhaps to get a question answered which has not been addressed. There are quite a number of questions there. We've tried to group the major interests and ask those questions. But if you would like to speak with the candidates afterwards, we're going to allow that time at the end. So this will be the last question, and it is representative of a number. Ms. Keys-Gamarra. I'm part of a group of Fairfax County parents who would like to see more recess in our schools and to see the concept of recess valued. If elected, what would you do to implement policies which would enhance our students' well-being at school by addressing those concerns, by valuing the benefits which recess imparts, as well as other well-being and mental health issues?
Earlier we talked about a good meal, good sleep, good time to play is also really important to the learning process. Research suggests that children actually, especially young children, learn better through play. And so they also need time to play, and I understand that recess has been cut trying to meet some of the requirements. And so what I would like to do is take some of that research and our staff and sit down and talk about how we can set some best practices, because I don't want our students feeling as though they can't perform because they haven't had adequate breaks. And so I'd like to make sure that we are setting some standards with respect to how to make sure we're incorporating play, first of all, in our learning, and second of all, providing an opportunity for them to have the break during the day so that they can continue learning. Thank you.
Recess is a right, not a privilege. I have seen teachers use recess as a threat. I'm going to take it away if you don't behave, if you don't sit down, if you're not still. That is exactly the opposite of an effective strategy. The kids who are moving, the kids that are fidgeting, that can't sit down, they need more recess, not less recess. Recess is really important. And no, kids cannot learn if they don't have the opportunity to get up and move. And it affects some kids more than others. I think, studies have shown it affects boys worse than girls, but all of our children need to have the opportunity, not just to physically get up and move, but to turn their brains off for a moment and switch to something else. And it enhances education. It is not, it's not taking time out from education, it's resetting education. It's resetting the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was one of those students that really benefits from play, and and it's really good in strengthening students' interpersonal skills as well. So it's an absolute priority for me, and if elected, you can count on me focusing on that early on.
Thank you, Mr. Versace, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Zoens, for coming tonight, for your straightforward answers. Special thanks to Jan Arbach and Beth Tudon, who were our organizers, our principal organizers tonight. Beth is also the executive director of the Fairfax County League of Women Voters. Thanks to Sydney Johnson, who is our voter service specialist in the league, who organizes all of these events all over the county. There are many more to come, and I hope that we'll see some of you there. And now we'll have 1-minute summaries before we conclude tonight.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the organizers very much, and I do look forward to having a chance to chat with each of you afterwards. Our public schools are the centerpiece of our community. They prepare our students for success, and they bring us together as neighbors. And, as one of the best school systems in the country, we can't afford to have a school board that goes and plays by their own rules, that places their personal political and social preferences before our children's education. I think what we really need is pragmatic, common sense decisions focused on education. The community needs to be heard, and I will listen to you, and I will represent your voice, and I will represent the best interests of our students in this community. I am ready to lead, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I will be a voice for diversity. I will be a voice for our teachers and staff members who are on the front line every day, providing quality education to our kids. And I will be a voice for fiscal responsibility and sound decision-making, as well as good procedures and involving the community in the process, because that makes it meaningful for all of us. And I will also be a collaborator and a listener and a communicator, because yes, we have some tough conversations that need to happen. And so I do ask for your vote, because every child deserves to have a voice on the school board. Every citizen deserves to have a voice on the school board. And I ask you for your vote to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. This is a wonderful turnout, and it is really great to see. I am a non-traditional candidate. I am a nonpartisan candidate, and a year ago, I would not have considered doing this. But I think things are different today, and we all need to step up. I want every child in Fairfax County to find their own voice, and I think it is the role of FCPS to help them do that. And I have served on multiple PTAs. I volunteer with many organizations, and I am ready to serve on the school board. This is about the children of Fairfax County, all the children of Fairfax County, because they grow up to be citizens just like us, and we want them to have the best education possible. Thank you.
Candidates will be given a list of questions, including those that were submitted but not specifically addressed, and they may choose to answer those. You may wish to check their websites later to see whether there are answers to questions that you wanted to have answered. Thank you all under the most difficult circumstances. Thank you for your civic participation. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Cool. Good night. Be safe going home. Thank you.